Hello and welcome to another Cosmic Heart Conversations podcast. So you're joined with me, Georgie Dragonfly, and James Newton, who's now going to bring his beautiful energy into the space. Welcome, James. Please share a little bit about yourself and bring yourself in.
Oh, thank you so much. My last name is actually Newman and not Newton, and
I
that's
just
quite
said
all
that too,
right.
didn't I?
You did. Oh, but it's so perfect. It's
Yeah.
Newton's theories. We're gonna go to a place today far beyond Newton's theories of science and actually step into the beauty and the brilliance of who we are on a soul level. So my earth name is given name is James Newman. My soul name is Djiámu, and I am here from a people called the Nabaio people, and we are from the Senetian Galaxy that is just on the edge of this universe. And our sole intention is to hold the passageways for that comes to us from other dimensions, from the ethereal and beyond, and from Source itself. I first want to say thank you to you for inviting me here and for allowing me to share this space with you and whoever may be listening out there to share a little bit of the art and a little bit of conversation or the art of conversation itself. Um, My origins here on the earth are from the eastern part of the US, where I was raised in the countryside, much the same as the countryside there in the UK. And I had a lot of really interesting occurrences in my very young life that awoken the need to remember who I really am on a soul level. And so my receivings of art, of vocal, of script, of language, and other things started at a very young age because here in this region there are lots of Protestants and Pentecostals, and they both have a profound following and belief in speaking in tongues and having what we know here as revivals. So at the end of harvest season in October, all the corn is cut down and wheat and other things, and they set up tents in the fields and have revivals. And my first experience witnessing a soul expressing itself was at 4 years old in a tent revival here in the countryside. And so it has evolved from there. In 2005, I had two near death experiences where I left, I transitioned from my body. And after experiencing those, things got really interesting, where my perception and my spectrum of possibility really expanded as to who we really even are on an even greater level and how the soul is connected to all that is. And here I am today with you.
And I'm pleased that you're back here with us, sharing this beautiful energy for us to also experience. So
Mm.
going back actually to when you were 4, did that awaken the sounding for yourself? Was that already a part of your experience, or was it just something you observed during that time?
At 4 years old, it was something I observed in my grandparents and great grandparents because on my maternal side of my family, we are all Native American. And so I witnessed them. I don't remember if it was an aunt or a grandmother, because we would sit in kind of, I guess, in the audience, and then there would be a pastor or someone up front, or even a chief up front, And of course, me, the wiggly little kid, wanted to get down and run up there and see what was going on. And of course, my grandma said, sit down. You have to sit here. And I was just unconsolable sitting in that chair. I wanted to go and see.
Mm.
And at that moment, it ignited something in me, but I was not sure about whether it was my place to express it. But the first thing that came for me was vocal singing from the soul at about 6 or 7 years old. And it was a voice of consoling,
Mm.
because at that point in my life, I had been left by both my parents, and was adopted.
Mm.
And there was this longing to feel them and receive them again in my life, but they never came. So this aspect of my soul came in and began to sing to me, and really began to remind me where I could receive that energy from, which was within myself. And at that point, I began to express that and began to sing.
Wow. So you heard it first and then you allowed it to come through as well.
I felt it first.
Yeah.
I felt it first. I would have to say I could feel it in my heart. I could
Mm.
feel this calming voice in my heart. And as I could become more calm myself, because I had a lot of anxiety as a child, the calmer I became, then I could hear it. I
Mm.
could hear this female voice, this feminine voice. And she asked me one day, she said, "Sing with me." And then from then on, I just would sing with her, and we would harmonize and just sing together. And probably at about 14 or 15, I then began to speak, as they would used to call it, speaking in tongues, and then some call it light language, I believe. And I know it as vibrational expression. It's the soul's pathway into the physical.
Mm.
It's the soul's vibrational expression. That's why people ask, can it be translated? And I tell them, it's not a word for word expression.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like it's a language, it's a vibration like the notes in a song. And someone can sing, like you can listen to an opera that is in a language you may not understand, but you can feel it.
Mm.
You can feel the emotion even in that written song. Well, imagine when you allow yourself to feel what is being expressed by the soul.
Yeah, I really like that. I say like heart language. Just feels like it's
Yeah,
coming from that space, and it's
yeah.
communicating to others in that space as well. Like if we want to
Hmm.
really truly experience something with someone heart to heart, I feel like, letting the English go and I just want to speak from that heart space. And this is really how I'm feeling. This is the real expression. And again, that
Yes.
soul, isn't it? Here's my soul expression to you.
Well,
To the
that's spot on.
mm,
That's exactly what it is. So we can not translate, but we can express the intention that it holds.
mm,
This is what is intended by what's being expressed,
mm,
and so as not to because when we translate, we engage the mind. Because we not only do we translate, but then we try and interpret.
yeah.
And then we can only interpret by what our mind is capable of perceiving. And this is all so much further beyond the capacities of the mind.
Mm,
And that's why it's important to remember to, yes, we can express its intention, but let your heart be the receiver. Just
mm,
like as you call it in the UK, just let yourself be the wireless. Let yourself be the radio that is the receiver of what's being expressed, the song, or
mm.
the spoken word, like the podcast, or however it's being expressed, and then you'll receive it.
Yeah, I really like that. So, for yourself, has this understanding taken a process for you, or because you were around that environment for some time, that was something that was always, that's how everyone shared that wisdom and that knowing from this, or was that something that you learned through your own self?
Um, because of having the Native American background, you may have seen either in movies or documentaries that as Native Americans, evening time after the last meal of the day was always spent in a room where all the generations of the family sat and shared wisdom.
Mm.
So when you tie that traditional day-to-day receiving together with then the revivals and those other expressions of the soul experiences, I guess I got a head start. So kind of got a lot of it instilled with me at a young age, but to get to where I can express the things I can, and I'm pointing behind me, though someone can't see it, they're listening, where I can express this artwork, it did come piece by piece and step by step. And each time that I could see something and paint it and express it, and it started out with very simple images, but each time I could fully receive the intention, a little more would come. And then from that, another piece. And then maybe a whole nother bigger thing. And then images and wisdom about each thing that was being expressed. So yeah, it was a step-by-step
Mm.
process.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think for a lot of people, when they start, talking light language or their soul language, or any kind of form of really soul expression, if they hadn't even been exposed to it, there's a lot of uncertainty of what they're
Mm,
experiencing and if it's
yeah.
okay, if it's safe. And so I don't know if you have any comments to share on that.
Even with what I experienced as a child, because most of it was within the family, it was okay within the family. As an adult now, as of 5 years ago now, I quit the Matrix day job and all of that and have just focused here. In the beginning, even myself, I was like, can I say that to somebody? How am I going to express that? And what I can say has come is just like the artwork. Every time I allowed myself to express a little something, became comfortable with that, then a little more would come. And
Mm.
then I could express a little more. And the more comfort and alignment that we find with that, the easier it comes. And it is a process, but I will say that on an ethereal level, we are so surrounded by beings that are of such love and support for us that not only can we feel free to express, to speak, to sing, sometimes it comes for people in the form of dance and movement and all of those things. Do it because the universe is working very diligently to bring others to you to receive it.
Mm.
So there is that full cycle of breath. You breathe out, and there will be someone there to breathe it in and
Mm.
receive it. So yes, let yourself do that, and stretch yourself. Step outside of your comfort zone. Sometimes there's never any, and those who love you. It's like an old saying: those who love you. For those who love you, it won't matter, and
Mm.
for those who it matters, they probably don't love you anyway. So just keep doing it, however it is that it comes to you, and the universe is working diligently to bring others to you to receive it. So
Mm. That's quite a powerful message, actually, on the idea of just really coming into your own experience. And the fact that you left that as you call it, the matrix job, and actually coming into just completely embodying your I
yes.
couldn't call it a practice, or your art, to share
Hmm.
that, and knowing that that is your path. I mean, it's a very, um you've got to have a very strong knowing and deep connection with your
Mm,
soul to trust that, to trust.
yes.
And so that was again another process, I imagine.
It was. And it came into kind of what we were talking about before we started the recording about the retreat that I spoke to you about. It really came down to recognizing who I really am. And once we recognize, as we were talking about, when we come into this world, we're born into a family, in a country, sometimes in a city or a town or a village, where there's all kinds of dynamic going on. There may be politics there, religion, there may be strong cultural ties, and all of these things. But that has nothing to do with the reality of who we are on a soul level.
Mm.
And as you know, this is something I've been talking about a lot recently in gatherings. We're told trust, trust the universe, trust that the universe is there. And there's a part of me that asks the question of my own soul, well, can we give people something to trust in? Just to help, to help them take that, we're also here, oh, you have to take that leap of faith, that first step, that leap of faith. And once you do, it's like the train. The train is hard to get rolling, but once it gets rolling, it's hard to stop.
Mm.
And it's kind of like those things. And I think that trust and those first steps come when you become aware of who you really are on a soul level, because that fills you. It fills your heart. And then it's like, oh, I can put my trust there because I can feel this in my heart. And that's a place where you can learn to put trust. And so yes, then it can come again, as anything, it can come step by step. Or if you're one that likes to run, you can just run with it or fly or levitate, or who knows what can come from it all.
So where did this um, I'm losing myself here because I can feel some energy actually coming in already. And I wanted to
Yeah.
just speak to you maybe a bit more about that with the idea of trust. And is this something that you would find within your practice? So within the breath, when we were talking about this breath um, ceremony that you're taking people through, is this something that
Hmm.
is that initiation into the trust?
I think what we end up doing, for example, in the breath ceremony, is we reconnect with one another. And I think one of the greatest issues of trust that maybe all of us can have at some point in our lives is feeling that we're alone in what we're doing. But the moment we connect with who we really are, and then sew that thread of life together with another soul, and then another soul, and then another soul, then suddenly we realize, oh, I'm not acting alone. They're
Mm.
all here with me. So then you can feel that in your that it's like, oh, wow, of course I trust this because we're all together.
Mm.
We're all resewing that thread of life between ourselves. And the greatest amount of trust comes with that, is no longer feeling like we're alone in what we're doing. Because sometimes it's like your first time, if you're in front of people or something, it's almost as if someone has put you up on a stage, and there you are. And it's like, no, come right down into a circle with everyone that's there with you.
Mm.
Gather them there. An amazing woman who passed in recent years, Maya Angelou. I don't know if you ever heard of her. She's an American poet, a professor, an African American woman. And she always said in some of her speeches, she says, every time I get ready to go and speak in front of others, she says, I call with me my ancestors. I call every person that has ever been kind to me. Any person that has been loving to me, I say, come with me now. I need you here with me. And
Mm.
so when we connect with one another, We've been living in a world where we've been individuals and are focusing on our uniqueness. Well, that sometimes comes to a divide. But when we let go of that and reconnect ourselves with one another, the issue of trust almost just dissolves because we feel supported, we feel loved and embraced to do what it is we're there to do.
Yeah, and I think, like you were even saying about nature as well, is like being that is the essence of the breath, being connected to nature, and how we are thinking that we're just this one individual being, and yet we are all of nature. And through connection of the breath is connecting back to nature, or that oneness.
Yes, because all of nature, as nature doesn't have a physical mind or an ego self, it knows no other thing than to be a part of the whole. It holds the awareness, the absolute awareness that it is part of something much bigger. And so it's every action, every function, every intention is held for the expansion of the whole. That's why when you go into a brilliant forest that's been untouched by human beings, that is out, or any aspect of nature, even the ocean, or even, anywhere, the mountains, anywhere where you go that's very remote in a way, there's this brilliance that's there. And there's so much going on because there's lots of animals and there's lots of plants. There's lots of little, as we call them here, little critters and bugs and things crawling and things flying and all this going on. But yet you can go out into those places and there's a stillness. And that stillness exists because there is no discord or separation. Everything is working in harmony for the betterment of nature itself and not for the individual. And that's why we can see, that's why we can see so much discord in the world, because we've come to a very extreme place with the division and the separatism of humanity.
And that actually really feels like it ties in with your latest piece of artwork that you have created, because this is something that is actually about turning away from that cycle, or moving away from that cycle, should I say, or it's probably better merging into a new cycle. You'll be able to expand on it far more than what I can.
Yes. I can either show you here behind me or I can pull it up on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be people on the podcast that will maybe need to come in and go back onto James's page and have a look at it as well.
Sure, and we can give that information. Yes, I can share. Oh no, it says only host can share. So let me just take you over so we can have a fluid situation here.
I said participants can share, so you should be able to.
Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to share with you now is called an elemental alchemy sphere. And I'll pull that up and you can see it there.
Here we are. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I will enlarge it in certain areas, first in the center, so you can see that there are stones there, and each stone has a script or a signature of its vibration. And each one is connected by more script, which is the expression of wisdom and the intention held in this expression. So just a little bit of science. Anything that we draw or paint in 2 dimensions as a circle, in the reality of a 3-dimensional expression, is actually a sphere. So what you're looking at here, that's why some of the parts are so much smaller in the center and wider on the outside, because it shows the expression of a sphere. So this is an elemental alchemy sphere. And if you break the three words down, each stone here is an individual element of expression. And let's say this is the reference, elemental reference of a forest. So many of the stones are trees, others are plants, others are, animals, others are different things, and all of it connected, and all of it harmonious to create this type of expression, this type of visual expression that you can see here. This elemental alchemy sphere is the expression of the now moment and its fluidity, and all of the elements that are in place for this fluidity to occur. Because we've always heard that our only true power is in the now moment. Because the 5 minutes ago is just a memory, right? And tomorrow is still something that we're thinking about. Oh, I have to do this, I've got to do that, all these kinds of things. There's no power there. There's no power in last year or 10 years ago or in tomorrow or next week. The place of our power of expression is right now. And this is a depiction of that now moment. And this actually came through as an elemental alchemy sphere that I did for someone there in the UK.
Ah, interesting.
I sat with her soul because she asked me to do what I call is a time alchemy mode. And a time alchemy mode in artwork, if I can, I'll show you another one of those as we speak. A time alchemy mode is a visual expression of the soul and all of its journeys here in this realm. And I'll actually pull hers up so you can see the first one of those that I received. And I believe it is this one. Yes. There it is.
Ah, yes.
So you can see in the very center is the time alchemy mode. And is where the script is. The very center where the star is and the keyhole is the representation of the soul itself, the light of the soul itself. And where you can see all of the script, you can see that it's sometimes different colors of script and different kinds of script, different expressions of script. Each one of those is the wisdom that was gathered in a lifetime. Because there are a lot of folks that do like past life regression work, and we've done that for a while. This is kind of an upgrade to that. What it does is it doesn't focus on just talking about, oh, you were here in 1720, you were married to this person, your family, these occurrences. What this talks to and expresses is the wisdom that was received from the occurrence and from that lifetime, because it is the wisdom that we take with us when we transition. And it is that wisdom that is in that 98.5% of our DNA. So this gets to express a very profound awareness of who she really is on a soul level. And as you can see, each one of the stones here has a unique vibrational signature. Yeah. This has to do with all of her, let's call them aha moments, and all her moments of awareness, and all connected together. So it could be referred to as, those are like the notes of the choir of angels that accompany her, and that she is.
Beautiful, really amazing. I can only imagine what that must feel like to be on the receiving end
Well,
of that
when a
person.
person requests one of those, I have a specific conversation with them for a while over Zoom so that I can connect with the vibration of their soul self. And then we leave, and when it comes time, I get the canvas, and I get put like I'm like I literally like a kid with toys. I put all my little toys in front of me, which are the brushes, the colors, the utensils that I might use, and it's literally as if her soul self sits right here beside me and is a storyteller
Mm,
and begins to give me visuals and colors. And the first thing we'll do is, if it's just as a reference, if it's a blue background, I'll have 12 different colors of blue, and her soul will say, pick that one, pick that one, pick that one, and that one. Now, and I get a bowl, and we start putting the different colors of blue that the soul guides me to put. And then I mix it up, and I'm always just like, holy crap, I've never even seen that color before. And
mm,
that's, and that's how it starts. And it unfolds from there. And it is beyond an honor. It is because as their soul is expressing in the visual aspect of it, I'm also getting to be the person watching and receiving and learning. I get to learn so much by the story that
mm,
her soul is telling, or his soul, whoever it is telling me. And that's when this awareness came about, oh my gosh, how do we start connecting those dots?
mm,
How do we start reconnecting this level of wisdom amongst humanity? And if you can only imagine, when we hold the awareness of all that is, receiving from one another and in reconnecting all, trust won't even be an issue anymore. It will be
mm,
such a beautiful, we won't even have those doubts or fears or anything, but it really is foundational to it, to that not dismissing, but dissolving of the issue of trust. Foundational to that is the reconnection of ourselves amongst one another. And the breath is one way to start that.
mm. I love that, coming all back to the breath.
Hmm.
Back to the
Yeah,
breath.
because it's something so easily shared.
Mm,
It's not invasive, it's not offensive. You're just breathing. And then if we can breathe as one, in even for just a moment, and feel that unity, it's like, oh, I want more of that. They're like,
mm,
yeah, I want more of that, because you get to, in that moment, as we were referring to nature, you get to feel that stillness, but that strength, because nature is powerful. Nature is so immensely powerful, and it's powerful because of its unity and because of its harmony. We can see in the world now what happens when we stand in a place of discord with one another. There's only chaos.
mm,
There's only, if it comes to it, destruction and the breaking down of our quality of life and different things like that. But when we unify ourselves as a species, as humanity, and then take that step to reunify ourselves with the earth, man, you talk about paradise. There will be things made manifest, because it's as Gandhi said so many years ago, be the world you want to see around you. He planted that seed to develop into what is ready to flower and come into expression now
mm,
in this year of 2022, because there are so many that speak to, oh, the new earth, there's going to be the shift, or the event and all of these things. And many are waiting for it to happen outside of them. It's like, not going to happen that way. The way it's going to happen is within when we all align with it and allow it to be expressed to us and through us as us. Because we align with what it is, then we begin to express from that place, from the soul's place, from that highest place, that highest expression of ourselves.
And would you say that this is a natural occurrence that is just going to be happening and evolving? Or is there anything that people, who's probably listening to this, I'm just thinking about how people might be feeling as they're listening and they're thinking, oh, well, how do I know? How do I connect to that? What is my best solution to align with this frequency?
Well, if I may, I'll speak to the retreat that I spoke to you about. There is a retreat that I received probably about 4 or 5 months ago, the whole of the body of the retreat, and then I've been working out details about it. But we're going to do the first one starting on the 22nd of February, and it's going to run the 22nd through the 27th, and it's going to be on Zoom. And this is going to be a retreat called the Breath of One. And I feel in the awareness that I hold at this moment that the greatest tool that we can have to aligning ourselves with this occurrence, with the shift, is knowing who we really are. Beyond, like we said before, any of the politics, the culture, the geographical place we're born, the family members, any of this, when we introduce ourselves to who we really are as a soul. So the retreat, the first evening, and this will be evening time. I've got some people who are joining from the UK and Europe. So I'll be probably at noon or 1 o'clock, whatever that'll be. It'll be evening time for folks in the UK and in Europe because people work during the day. So it'll be like a 7 o'clock, I think. And we'll define that when we get closer, we'll set up the time. But there'll be an evening session that's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday morning, Saturday evening, and then the last session on Sunday. And the content of it is doing a meditational practice of the breath of one and allowing people to feel within their heart space what it is to connect on the level of the breath with one another. And just a little something to insert, as I told you earlier, I've already done that part of it on Zoom, and literally, and there were people from all over the world, a couple of people from the UK, some people from out west here, a woman from Australia, Canadians, and some Americans. And many of them could say that towards the latter part of that meditation, once everyone was connected with their breath, they could literally feel the rhythm of the vibration of the earth. They could feel this one, this hum of it all together, of this harmonious place. And so we step into that, and then we go through a series of classes of introducing each person to their soul self. So the first class is who you really are. And we go in depth in a conversation about setting aside all of the physical world aspects and introducing the soul itself. And from there, we go to the fluid soul as the second class. And that talks about, just like we were speaking to the now moment, reality is fluid. This timeline is illusional. Yesterday, tomorrow, all this stuff, 1720, 2022, all this stuff is just a timeline where out of this realm, it is seen as a fluid state of being and all occurring now. So we introduce that aspect of the fluid soul. And then we go into home. Well, where does the soul reside? Where does it reside within us? Where does it reside in the bigger picture of things? And we go profoundly into all of that. And then we go to stillness. So once you've got yourself figured out in part in that moment, how do we then connect with the stillness of all that is? Where is that vibrational place? And then the last class before the finishing meditation is called the thread of life. How are all of those parts and pieces, every element, every person of humanity, every aspect of nature, how is that all sewn together, like in the image that I showed you with the script, with all of the elements and pieces? How is that all sewn together? And we talk about how we as individuals have cut those threads. Oh, I don't like this person. Oh, well, that person is of that race or religion. And I'm not speaking to people who are probably listening to this, but you can see it in the world. We as humans have cut that thread, and we talk about how we resew that thread, how we come into the awareness of how everything is interconnected and is of one. And then the last class on the last day is we redo the breath of one to see how much deeper into that awareness that each person goes. And the person is given a journal and kind of an overview of each class. So they have room to write things down. And I encourage anyone during the retreat to paint or to write or poetry, song, pictures, whatever comes to them, put it in that journal and let it be the seeds that are planted for them to take with them after the retreat is over, so they can nurture that and allow that awareness to become more. And like in the beginning of our conversation, when you were asking me, how does it come? It comes like that. Once you become aware of a piece of it, then you can ask, and another piece is revealed. In the very Bible, it says, ask and you shall be given. That's what it was talking about. Ask, and the reality of all that is will be shown to you.
Questions, that's another thing, isn't it? That we often don't really ask the questions. Or we're asking the questions to somebody else.
Yes, and sometimes, many times, because of something we were talking about earlier, that clinging to what we think we know, many times we're asking questions to support that place that we already are, that many times is not working anyway. And so we ask the questions to stay in that comfort place. This place in the retreat will take you outside of that. It's a very safe, loving environment. It's just whoever's participating, just us there in the Zoom room. So I ask people to step outside of that, to take what you think you know, set that over on the shelf for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, 3 hours, whatever it is, we go. Because we get into the class, and then after the class is over, people are like, oh, wait, I want to ask a question. And that's when sometimes it really gets exciting, because people, then they let go and it's like, well, wait a minute, but I saw this one time in my meditation. How does that connect with this? I'm feeling something, and we dive into that. And because what one of us feels and experiences, the rest of us do too, especially if we've come together in a group, because the universe orchestrates that. The universe brings people together in that.
Yeah, it's always surprising in groups. There are all these synchronicities and yeah, like how people could have a vision and it completely relates. I've been in
And they're
groups.
like, wait a minute, I saw that too.
Yeah, like, really?
Well, that's the beauty of the universe at work. The beauty of the universe, as our soul is a part of the universe can see it all happening at once. That's why when people get to see this elemental alchemy sphere, they'll see there are all these elements, but they're all right there. And you can see them all and witness them all. That is if I had a whole wall I can't. I live in a rented apartment, so I can't paint on the wall. But if I had a whole wall, I'd paint it on there, just to give the spectrum of what's possible to people. Of this is how the universe sees each of us. So the universe says, "You need to go to this retreat." Puts a little seed in there. Maybe I should go to the retreat. Something's telling me I need to go to that retreat. And people say, "Oh, something just said I needed to go." Well, hello, that was the universe telling you. And the
Yeah.
universe is telling each person that they see already has a similar or very like frequency or vibration. Let them come together. Let them feel that. Let them see that interconnectedness, and then let them take that out in their lives and see how they can connect with others. Because in the retreat, that's something I talk about towards the end is, now take this with you. Talk to someone else about it. I don't care. Whatever we shared here is for humanity. Sit with other people and talk about the same things. Find the ways to re-sew those threads and reconnect one another.
Yeah. I've actually found in retreats, I've gone places where I'm like the other side of the country, um, and there'll be somebody who's actually also lives in the same town as me, and I'm like,
What?
what? I don't even like see anybody else as like particularly. Not a particularly spiritual. It's not at all in the slightest. It's a very dense kind of area that I live in. So whenever I
Hmm.
find that, I think, gosh, this is really interesting. It's giving me an awareness of like everybody is capable of experiencing this and feeling this, and never
Hmm.
doubt anybody that you see on the street that like might look like your average Joe, and you might think they're not tapping into like higher states of consciousness.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
just
But
seriously.
yet, when you get them in the right situation, wow, it all comes out. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why I said just a minute ago, like you put someone, if you just found someone out in the shops or something, and ask them about something that they might be a little hesitant about. Well, who is this? What are they asking me? But when you come together in like a Zoom or even a retreat, it's like, oh, this is why I'm here. I
Mm.
can open this up. I can express. And it's like, oh my God, you're from right down. And oh, well, you're just from right down the road or something like that. I didn't imagine. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That we're
And
all
that's the
capable of this.
beauty. Yes, at our core. See,
Mm.
that's what it goes back to. When we come into that reality of who we are, not the job you have, the town you live in, the culture, all this stuff, when you take all of that away and come into that core of who we really are, we all find the commonalities.
Mm.
We find the common ground. And that's what I believe with the people who are talking about the shift, the new earth, all of these things that are going to happen, the occurrence, whatever it is, that's what's going to happen. We're going to be letting go of all of that and come into this awareness of who we really are and find those common places that we
Mm.
share already without having to do a lot of explanation. We just feel, I get it. Yeah, I feel that too. And, you reconnect, re sewing that thread of life. That's why this retreat, I think, is a really profound introduction into how do we get it going there? How do we get into that direction?
Mm. Mm. Because I think a lot of people are going to need, or they already do. We're all kind of searching for it, calling out for it, and
Mm.
then people like yourself, you're getting the downloads of going, right. This is the set. This is the steps. Not
Yeah,
saying
these
that
are
it's like
some
a
of the
linear
steps.
step, but it's like having a container, a sacred
Hmm.
space to go
Yes.
into that and explore that and feel safe to do that, and then
Hmm.
go out into the world knowing that that is what it is.
Yeah. And something important I think always to say, it's not the only way.
Mm.
You know, you can maybe work in an office, right? All of you are looking towards the same means when you get to the office. Okay, I have to go to work today. But some people can walk. Some people can take public transport. Some people may drive. Some people may ride a bicycle. Some people may be in a carpool.
Mm.
So, what I can present to someone is one of those ways. Is it the only way? Of course not. There are so many ways. So, we have to also trust ourselves in making those choices of what resonates with us, what
Mm.
gets us there the best way.
Yeah.
But I can only hope and hold the intention that this introduction to the soul self, the reality, it can be a game changer.
Mm.
People can really begin to then trust what that voice inside of them is saying to them. And because we do, I mean, I myself, we all do at times. We hear that voice, and sometimes we're either too busy or something else is going on. We don't listen.
Mm.
Well, this introduction also reminds us how to listen better and how to trust that voice inside. Because really, when we talk about trust on a public or social level, most of the time trust is, can I trust that person?
Mm.
Well, that's an illusion. That's exactly wrong. I don't usually use that word wrong, but it's unrealistic. What you have to learn to trust is yourself.
Mm.
And because that person can speak or behave or do whatever they want to do, it's, can I trust myself and how I will respond to that?
Mm.
Can I trust my own awareness to know it's like, okay, whatever, and move on, and just not get attached to whatever might have been said or done. Or we hear this word trigger a
Mm.
lot. We can only be triggered by that which we believe. So if someone says something to you or throws something at you or about you, you will only be triggered because you believe it. No
Mm.
matter how ugly what they might say is, you only are triggered because you believe it. Step back a minute, ask yourself, is that true? Wait a minute. And if you do that and have the awareness of who you really are, then you stop and realize, that person's talking about themselves.
Mm.
They're really not talking about me. They're talking about an aspect of something that might be happening and how they see it and how it applies to them. But as we like to defer and throw that off on somebody else and attack this whole discordant situation that we live in, we get triggered by it. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't do that. It wasn't me. That's not me. Oh, okay. Come into that place of awareness of all that you are, and you're like, okay, no, that doesn't have anything to do with me. I don't need to be triggered. I don't need to be sucked into that,
Mm.
because people love that thing. They're in the storm in their own lives and their own selves, and I like to draw other people into that same storm.
Mm.
So stand in your place of peace and invite others to join you there. But you
Mm.
have to know where that place of peace is. That's where the class during the retreat of stillness, that's where that comes in. Where is that stillness within us?
Mm.
And connected with the soul self, and how do we come to that place no matter what might be going on in the world around us?
Yeah, yeah. Because then you are just completely in that vibrational resonance. You're completely
Hmm.
experiencing from an observer as well. You're like,
Yes,
I see it.
yes, yes,
Okay, witnessing,
yeah,
holding space.
yeah, yeah. Just witnessing, and that place isn't. Oh, I put a bubble of protection around myself. Like, no, that's not it either. Because you have to breathe. Your energy needs to be fluid. And when you do that, you block the flow of your energy.
Mm.
So we can, as I think we were saying earlier, just turn the light on. Come into that place of the awareness of the light and the love that all that you are, and turn the light on and let that light just keep expanding and becoming more and more brilliant. So that means that anything around you will be illuminated as well.
Yeah.
It's like I think we were saying before we started recording, is that I had this profound awareness come to me again this morning after years of having it put up on my refrigerator, this quote, and the quote is, "One day, fear knocked at the door. Love answered, and there was no one there." And so all we ever have to do when fear arises is come into that place of stillness where love resides and turn the light up, turn the light on, and then see what happens. Let ourselves remember how to come into that place. And each time we do that, it starts to become an automatic. It's like I liken it to like when we were really young kids and learned how to ride a bike. Right? People like, well, how do I get back to that place? It's like it's the sweet spot. When we were trying to learn how to ride a bike, some had training wheels to help support us, or I grew up in a very poor situation. We didn't have training wheels or anything like that. We were just put on a bicycle and pushed and said, okay, now either sink or swim or ride it or whatever. And I fell a lot of times. But then one day I got back on the bike and all of a sudden I found that sweet spot. And it's like, woo, then I just took off. Well, coming into the alignment with stillness and things like that, it's no different. How amazing is our world to have that as children as an example of how to find stillness? Well, it's that sweet spot. It's learning how to come into alignment with that sweet spot, just like the bicycle, and staying there. And it comes to a point. It can come to a point where we can literally live every waking moment from that place. It can come to that, and then is when I feel the event will occur. When enough of us are in that sweet spot, if you will, that align, brilliant, beautiful place, then we're going to see this world transform right around us because it's coming through us as us.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that when you say about coming through us as us, because I always like to even refer and say, I often experience thinking, nature, being nature as nature, not as like a separate, we're connecting to nature, like we are nature as nature. So it feels like it
Yes,
really relates
yes,
into that, like allness, completeness,
yes.
wholeness.
And yeah.
Yeah.
There was something that I heard from another podcast that gives you. I think when we receive, the more wisdom we allow ourselves to receive, because there's a huge difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is of the mind. Knowledge will expand us this way, kind of in a lateral plane, on a plane, but wisdom will allow us to ascend. And there was a piece of wisdom that was shared in another podcast I was listening to the other day, and it was so profound that it really shifted my awareness. It literally was one of those widening of the spectrum of what is, and it was this. It was, the man was talking about humanity and all of the goings on of humanity and finding our way, and he got into this conversation about love, and he said, he says, I was sitting with a shaman and some other folks on a mountain somewhere in Central America, and one of the shamans said, he said, well, one of the misconceptions of humanity is that love is the most powerful energy in our universe. He says it's not. He says this universe is not built upon love. He says it's built upon beauty. And he says it is in the witnessing of beauty that we experience love. Because you can meet someone on the street and in a short conversation see something absolutely beautiful in them. Very possibly, because of the awareness you hold, you may see something that other people can't. But you can see that beauty in them, something they think or say or do, just something about them. You can do the same thing in nature. You can do the same thing anywhere. It is when we can observe and witness that beauty, that's experiencing love.
Mm.
And so we can see, interesting story, as the earth evolved in its very beginnings, I'm talking way back, Big Bang Theory, all that stuff, when it's still molten and it's blah, 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 and then all of a sudden vapor appeared and then waters and it's evolving and all of this stuff. By the way, the planet evolved due to the wisdom that was present in the ethereal and fed into this realm so that it could express to us and through us as us. So those who were creating the universe and this planet and all the other stars and planets and galaxies uh, fed wisdom through the doorways. That's what my people are about, is the passage of wisdom from the ethereal into the physical. So the evolution continued, and then we started to see life forms and different things, and some things started to grow on the earth and other things in the waters, and all of a sudden, a flower appeared. And the energy had been sent through for beauty to exist because it was recognized how powerful beauty is. Because you can see, there's not an event that doesn't talk about love of some kind that a flower isn't usually present. There are usually flowers either sent or brought or covered in everything with flowers for that beauty and the power of that beauty. So the first flower came, but it didn't thrive. It died, and it left. So those entities and beings said, okay, well, let's send a more beautiful flower. Send this kind of flower, that kind of flower. And they kept sending that energy through, and the flower was born, but it didn't thrive. Well, it took some time before some other creatures and other things were present. And suddenly the flower decided it was time to come back. But then there was someone there to observe its beauty. And from that moment, instance forward, the flower thrived because there was someone there to witness it. The interconnectedness of all things, and where the power of the reality of all that we are resides. It's in the interconnectedness, not the individuality or the separate or the uniqueness. It's in the interconnectedness of us all. So the flower began to thrive and grow and be its beauty in this world because there was someone there to witness its beauty. And in that, see the and feel the love, because we can smell the perfume of a flower, see the beautiful colors of the flower, and it's like, oh my gosh, I love that. And there is explained why beauty is the most powerful expression that we have, because beauty can come in any form.
Yes.
We can sometimes see beauty in a person, the beauty of something that others cannot see. And there's beauty in it all. The reality is there's beauty in everything. You just have to be able to, and again, that's where it goes back to, when you recognize the beauty in yourself, the soul in yourself, you can then see it in others, expressed to us and through us as us. Look for the beauty.
Wonderful. I can really feel that in my heart, and my soul is singing. And I really
Yes.
feel that this is, if you are feeling it too, a beautiful soul transmission would be so appropriate right now with the wonderful words that were spoken. How does that feel
Sure.
to you?
Sure. Let me sit back a little bit. And I'll invite anyone who is there and listening to just come to a place of stillness with yourself. Come to the awareness of the soul and the light that is within you, and just be the receiver. Set aside all that you think that you know and just be the receiver. in this moment. Let yourself become aware of your breath as it rises and falls gently. Let yourself become aware of the pause, because we're about to step into the pause, because that's where the fluidity is. Samsutur fitiria nangaya tasumiyake amniat satar sotor fuporia nangia nasununkie sutnu ushir fitiara nungum niasanenkia avara tatsutu miananke nasonongo ashfor potar taninkir num sitirit sunungor nusor nuser tusumar asen nananka sukor vidiaranangia sanangi nomnir 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 nom num sati sini miarananka ashtiarana ashtiaradan suntur num kor vidiarananka sam sikir isam sikir isamet sikir. I am love, you are love, and we are love, and we make up the beauty of this universe and all that is. We are a part of it, and it can be expressed to us and through us as us. And so it is.
Thank you so much, James, for such a gentle stillness that now we can all feel just within. I can really, truly feel that, and I hope everyone there that is listening has just taken that moment to really be present with this transmission. So for anybody that would like to look at more of your work, I'm going to definitely have all of the information in the information box in the bio of this particular episode. If
Wonderful.
there's anything particular that you wanted to mention that you do, I know we've got your your breath ceremony, but what kinds of sessions can people do with you?
Okay. I offer one-on-one sessions, and they begin with finding out what is your level of awareness of who you really are. We go through a series of questions and just kind of find out what is there the awareness, if there are any misconceptions, because sometimes I'll get some people that will say some things and I'll think, okay, I don't know where you got that from, but let me share something with you and see if it resonates. And I don't tell anybody what's right, what's wrong, anything. I go, well, let me share something with you and let's see if this resonates with you. And usually it does. And so we start out there because nobody wants to hear me babble about something they already know. I'm just like the postman, the mailman. I'm just the messenger. So I try and figure out that, and I always encourage someone, and especially in the first session, once you have reached out and said, "Oh, I want a session," and we've made that time, get a piece of paper and a pencil handy, And any question that comes to you, it's like, oh, I'd like to know about this, or I'd like to write it down. Write it down. And these sessions can go sometimes 2 and 3 hours because I set the appointment, but I give plenty of time because sometimes we'll say something and that creates questions, that creates things like that. And so that's usually a one-on-one session, and those involve all the way into discovering things like how to express this kind of artwork, or whether that's in movement or other expressions, or some people come, well, how do I apply this, let's say, in my workday or in my day-to-day life? And we can do a whole session of how to apply those things. Well, okay, that's great sitting here. I'm real peaceful here, but how do I go out in the street and take that with me? How do I stay there? And we go in depth about that. And those are the things that are one-on-one sessions. I do healing work. Some people come and have either a physical ailment or something going on, and sometimes it can be emotional or otherwise. And that kind of session, there is a lot of my soul presence that will express just as as my soul did a few minutes ago. And we really go into finding out, where did the belief start that has now manifested the discord in your body or in the mind? Because it started as a belief somewhere, a long time ago. And a lot of people like to go into, oh, past life, did I bring this with me? It's like, well, it may be a part of your genetics that's there, but something triggered it here in this life, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, 10 years old. Something happened, because what can then later in our lives, in 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, or later, manifest itself as a disease, started as a belief. You experienced something, and you experienced it enough times that, I guess that's true about this world. So you took it on as a belief. We go right there. We go right there, and we bring that younger self present here and hold it in a place of love, hold that person in a place of love. And that's when my soul will express and speak to it. And usually what happens is that belief is let go of. And when the belief is let go of, and the alignment with the energy that's manifesting whatever it's manifesting, what was manifested also leaves. It may take the body time to catch up with that new vibration, but it ends up occurring. And so that's a second type of session. And then most of the other work I do is either in Zoom groups. We'll have a Zoom gathering. I have things that I create myself, but sometimes I'll have, like, a person will contact me and say, hey, I've got 4 or 5 of my friends, and we've been talking about this, but we'd like to expand upon it. Would you come and do a Zoom with us? And we do that with just a little private room with us 5 or 6 people. And those I just do by donation. The sessions, one-on-one sessions, are charged for, but those are just a love offering from each person, and we sit and chat. We have a chat for the record for the longest one of those is 5 hours and 15 minutes. I literally just put myself there to be the messenger of whatever can be received. And that one, I promised I'd never do one that long again, because I was really exhausted. Staying that focused in that kind of energy for over 5 hours was tough on this physical body. But those are the types of services that I offer. And then I do the time alchemy modes, which is what we talked about earlier. The time alchemy mode, telling the story of the soul from the soul's perspective, and all of the imagery around it tells the story of the origins of the soul, where you come from, who your people are, What is the intention that your people hold? And therefore, why are you here on the planet now?
Yeah, I love that. That kind of worked is just, it gets me excited because we've had a lot of, I mean, and I don't have anything against astrology. I still really like astrology, but it's interesting how we've now got this light languagey, soul language scripture,
Hmm.
which actually it's like a new version of
An
that.
upgrade.
It's like, yeah.
Yes, you are right on, right spot on, I guess, as you say there in the UK. You are spot on
Yeah, because I want to be
with it.
delicate about it because, I know
Yes.
that obviously there are people in that profession, but it is like a whole other way of accessing
Hmm.
information about the soul, which I think is
Well,
really potent at this
it
time.
is. It is. And it's just like I said to you earlier about the center of the time alchemy mode, where there are many professionals that only do past life regression. Well, those past life regression usually just focus on the events.
Mm,
Oh, well, you were here at this time. I mean, some of them go more profoundly in. But what this does, instead of telling it from our perspective of that was past, that was that, no, we can now see it all occurring at once because the beauty of that is that you can call upon that wisdom at any time
mm,
in this now moment because everything in reality is occurring right now. Ah, I remember that. That's how I dealt with that. I hold that. Okay, yes, I can deal with that. I can, and again, going back to the trust situation, it's like, I can go within myself and call upon all of this wisdom, and not only from my own experiences, but from all that is. That's what the elemental alchemy sphere is about. We are
mm,
all in reality all interconnected, so we can call upon it all. And
mm,
that's a beautiful thing about the NDEs. When you have an NDE and
mm,
you leave, you transition from your physical form and go into the vibrational state of the soul. Two things. If somebody said pick two things out of all that occurred while you were over there, tell us two things. And the one is, and I feel like it's the most salient, the one that stands out the most, is how deeply we are all loved.
mm.
When you feel that, when you get to feel how deeply, there aren't words, deep, profound, you can go through the dictionary, doesn't even come close to what you get to feel about how we are loved by the Creator, and how we are loved by all that is. And the other is that in the soul state, there isn't anything we don't hold awareness of.
Mm.
Because everything is interconnected, we
Yeah.
are aware of it all. So there's no doubts, there's no uncertainties, there's no trust issue, no, it all just goes away. And all of this has come, referring then now back to the astrology, to the script, in we have all been here gathering wisdom and feeding. Every time we have an aha moment, that aha piece of wisdom gets sent to back to source,
Mm,
right? So now source is paying it back or paying it forward, sending new technologies and new ways to see into the ethereal, to see what is. Astrology had its time. Um, Numerology, other aspects of reading things had their time, but the difference is those are kind of like the rotary phone. But now we have smartphones, and God knows what's coming next. Well, the next step is we won't need these anymore. We'll
mm.
just appear for each other and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And so it's not an insult to anyone, because what were we talking about before? A lot of people are afraid to take that step because they're clinging to something. It's time. If you can say it, it's time to learn the new tricks, if you will. It's time
Mm.
to broaden that spectrum of what's possible, and that's how we get to witness the manifestation of the new earth. So it's actually a prayer and a beautiful thing to see us letting go of what was and coming into what is now.
Yeah, and just fully evolving into it, flowing into it, being in that
Mm-hmm.
experience. Thank you so much, James. This has been an absolute enjoyable podcast. I could just honestly listen to all of the magical things that you have to say, because it's just, it's just so, it's a pleasure to my ears, because I feel and resonate with a lot of the things that you've shared today, and it's been really useful information. I can really feel that for those that will be listening. So
Wonderful.
thank you so much.
Wonderful. Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for however you connected the dots. It was orchestrated by the universe, and you listen, but you listen to the words, and so I thank you as well.
Thank you. Yeah. So yes, for everybody that's listened today, enjoyed everything that James has, brought out with his soul here, and you can feel his resonance. And please do reach out. And if anything came up in this podcast you want to share and speak about, of course, there's comments here, but you can reach out personally, and also look at what he's doing, and look at the soul readings and things like that, so you can truly get a feel for this new experience that is now. It is now.
Yes, yeah. And if I can just insert,
Mm.
every Saturday, I live in the Central Time Zone, US. For international folks, that's Chicago time. If you Google what time is it in Chicago, that's the time zone I live on. So every Saturday morning at 11:11 here, which would be afternoon, early evening for you guys, I do a 1 hour meditation called Stillness. And we put out just something to focus on in stillness. And tomorrow it will be that quote that I said to you. One day fear knocked at the door, love answered, and there was no one there. We're just going to sit in stillness with that, in the realization with that. So if somebody just wants to connect, and that is in the Alignment Life group on Facebook that the live comes through.
Yes, and you'll be able to get that link in this description as well.
Okay.
So you'll have all of that. Yes, it will perfectly. Everything will be there for everybody to receive. It's amazing. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, James. And join us next Friday for another podcast, and like and share with anyone you feel would resonate, and sending you all the love.